Americans are retiring later in life. A study says they're also dying sooner. And somewhere in between, they're sicker now. Lo Hornbuckle, he is assisted living homeowner specializing in Alzheimer's disease. Lo, tell me a bit more about this study that we mentioned this a few days back in the news, and it had more information to it as well as I don't know if folks are working longer because they have to, or they're working longer just to, as Tim and I were saying earlier this week, just to stay alive, keep the blood flowing, keep moving, have a purpose in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on the show this morning, guys. I think I was actually a little surprised by the results of the study. We've made a lot of progress in people living longer over the last 30, 40 years in particular. And, the results were a little bit surprising as far as what you referenced as far as people working longer. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think the two primary factors are people work longer because they have to. People don't typically have pensions anymore. They don't have these guaranteed retirements. Wages haven't really kept pace with inflation, and so people are having to work longer to have any kind of quality of life in retirement. And then the second thing is some people are just working because it gives them a sense of purpose. So obviously, when you got a couple different large groups of people all doing the same thing, but maybe for different reasons, you get this big national trend where people are working, to late 60s, early 70s. So it's a really fascinating trend.
It is a study put together by the folks at the Society of Actuaries. They were looking at data as far as death rates and health rates between 2014 and 2015. Assisted living homeowner specializing in Alzheimer's, very familiar with that issue. Lo Hornbuckle, our guest on the Morning News.
Yeah, Mr. Hornbuckle, Tim Sullivan here. Why are we dying sooner, though? And is there a correlation between working longer, retiring later and working longer, and dying sooner?
There may very well be a correlation there.
Because if you're working longer and staying busy and keeping your mind active, you would think that you would live longer.
Well, it depends on the type of work. If you're in a coal mine versus, doing something that's, maybe a little bit less dangerous, then perhaps maybe there'd be a correlation. But I do think it's important that we do pump the brakes just a little bit because it was a one-year blip. So if you look at the total study, this happened in 2005. This happened in 1980 as well, where even though there were general gains, that there was a year-to-year trend sort of disruption. My concern, and the reason why I think the study will be actually proven correct, is there's been a flattening. If you look at the last 6 or 7 years, the year-over-year gains in life expectancy have started to slow down. So this could be us essentially hitting a wall of increasing life expectancy. So just like with sprinters, the human body's only going to be able to run so fast.
True.
There is going to be some limitation on how long a human can live. There's a lot of people doing a lot of great work on the cellular level trying to, basically stop aging in its tracks. But the reality is, I think what you're starting to see is we got all the low-hanging fruit. We've done all these anti-smoking campaigns. We've been able to fight heart disease, things like that.
Yeah.
But what we haven't really done is we're still, as a country and as a planet, we're pretty overweight. We're pretty stressed. We take in a lot of aggregate toxicity. And I think what we're starting to see is some of that's kind of catching up to us.
Hey, Lo, let me ask you something, maybe a little morsel of wisdom. Look, you work in the industry of assisted home living, and you see people with Alzheimer's disease, and you provide memory care. And looking at this data, you got a lot of working people right now, people that are taking care of kids and taking care of parents at the same time. Little morsel of
absolutely.
Give them a little morsel of wisdom and life experience from your perspective, looking at life situations, end of life, towards the end of life. What would you say to somebody middle of the road right now? Do this right now to prepare for your retirement, for your eventual medical expenses that are coming up later in life, and those big decisions on assisted living and all that. What would you say to working people right now?
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is you mentioned all the people that are helping take care of people, and my hat's off to them. Right now in America, there are probably several million people that are, unpaid, taking care of a family member, taking care of an older person, taking care of a kid, maybe with a disability, and my hat's off to them. But to answer your question, I think financial planning is really probably the most important thing. Even doing something as small as investing in a long-term care policy would ensure that if later in life you do need that assistance, it's the difference between you having to spend down all your money to qualify for government assistance versus being able to leave a legacy for your family and also ensuring the best care. I mean, when facing the choice of having to go into a government-funded facility or a private pay facility, if you've got that long-term care policy and you've got that proper financial planning, you'll be able to choose a facility that's right for you as opposed to being sort of force-fed, just one that's available.
Yeah, gives you a lot of options.
Just definitely, healthcare is getting expensive. We all know that's the case. And if you just do a little bit of planning, you can make that sort of twilight of your life, you can make that a little better quality.
Long-term care policies, long-term care policies. You're middle of the road right now. You better start looking into something like that.
Lo Hornbuckle. How are you, Lo?
Name just rolls off the tongue, doesn't it?
It's like you ought to be like basket by Lo Hornbuckle. I mean, it'd be really nice at the State Farm Center for you to make a basket. It's kind of a cool name, LOE, right?
That's right. Yes,
okay.
sir. Yeah, I always thought more of a Southern senator, more so than a basketball player. But
Senator Lo Hornbuckle. My name is Senator Lo Hornbuckle. We get things done around here.
Like the KFC commercial.
There you go. Assisted living home owner specializing in Alzheimer's disease and memory care. How does a guy get into this work, Lo?
Well, some family stuff got me into it. I unfortunately had to deal with my father's death, and obviously when one door closes, another opens, and I kind of became passionate about helping people.
Well, is there anything? There are a lot of sad things out there, but Alzheimer's is certainly one of them. That is just heartbreaking when you lose contact. I mean, they're there, but they're not, and it's painful to have somebody you love and know so long not know you. Mm-hmm. Painful. So
it's one of the top 10 killers of Americans, and it's the only one for which there is no cure. So obviously, it's a very devastating disease, and we work hard every day just to try to make sure that we give the best quality of life to the people. Yeah. But we're just we're managing a condition. We're certainly not curing it.
The U.S. retirement age is rising. There's a study that says Americans are retiring later, dying sooner, and sicker in between. Well, happy Friday. That's just no good. None of that. What?
Yeah, it was not a positive study. However, there's some good news that we can take from it, which is that, number one, it was only a one-year blip. It was 2014 to 2015. So the overall trend has been very good for life expectancy increasing. So this could be an anomaly in the data. However, the bad news is that there's been a flattening of the increases. So if you look at the chart, there's been a lot of positive spikes and improving life expectancy. But lately, the big spikes have been getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So we may have hit that proverbial wall. And so this may be a new trend where we've kind of hit the peak of life expectancy for now. Now, medical technology always has a way of catching up. And I've got a friend of mine that's working on aging at the cellular level. He tells me they're going to make some breakthroughs soon, and I'm confident in this gentleman. So my suspicion is that we'll get this trend headed in the right direction soon. Now, the working thing, that's more of an economic issue. So obviously a little bit outside of my realm of expertise. But I will say that, I think in general people are working longer because we don't have the same type of retirement system we used to have where you work 20 or 30 years, you had a guaranteed pension. The costs of things have gone way up, and wages haven't really kept pace. So people are working longer so they can, afford retirement.
Yeah. Well, and I know that, again, we are living longer, but in some cases the quality is not so good. You just try and stay as healthy as you can for as long as you can at this point, Lo, huh?
Absolutely. And the main thing is I think one of the biggest important factors in this whole thing is healthy people are actually living longer. It's just that more and more of us are unhealthy. And so in my particular company, my youngest resident is 60. My oldest resident is 102.
Wow.
We've got a 42-year gap between. So that just kind of tells you. And the one that's 102, she's a pistol, man. I mean, you never know it. I could win some bets on guessing her age.
I bet. TheSageOak.com, TheSageOak.com. Lo Hornbuckle from Dallas. Thanks for your insights, buddy. Thanks. Have a great weekend.
Thank
My pleasure. Thank you.